It is Radio Plays at N, 4 minutes after 12. This is TMO. We usually go live every single Thursday, but today it's a very special Tuesday because the Hollywood Bet Sharks are taking on the All Blacks this evening at Hollywood Bets Kings Park. It's Hollywood Bets Tuesday, Hollywood Bets August, Hollywood Bets the 11th, and it's at 7 p.m. I mean, look, they own everything. Let's be serious. It's happening at 7 o'clock tonight. Before we even get into it, we have got 2 tickets, complimentary tickets. Great tickets, in fact. Thank you, Plum. Coach Plum, we appreciate you. I was going to take the credit. I was. And we want to give these tickets away. So if you want these tickets, you need to drop us a message right now. Our WhatsApp number is 072 330 337. Just send us a message. Say whatever you want in the message. What number, Coach? Number? Thanks to, what do you want to say? We love Plum.
And then you get it.
Okay.
It's got to be I love Plum.
Number
25.
Okay, so the 25th person to send a message, the 25th person to send a message is going to get these double tickets. I love Plum. Please, will you say I love Plum? There we go. I love Plum. The number is 072 330 337. 2 complimentary tickets for tonight's game, Hollywood Bets Sharks versus the All Blacks. But it is TMO, very special show today. Gavin Rich is with us. Ladies and gentlemen. Yes. Let's pass it straight to the boys.
Besh, let me start, Besh, just by welcome you back.
Where have I been?
No, nowhere, but I wasn't quite sure I was going to keep you on, so welcome back.
Oh, jeez. Thanks so much, John.
Pleasure.
Good to be here. Hello, Kerry. How are the Midlands? I know you can't talk. We're stuck in the
It was
Hilton on the
stunning.
weekend, eh?
It was amazing.
In the background.
What goes on tour, Besh?
Stays on tour.
Yeah.
Gavin Rich. Let me tell you a little bit about Gavin Rich. Born and bred Durbanite. For those people that didn't know, schooled right here in Durban at Northlands Boys High School. Mm-hmm. Captain of the second team cricket, Gav.
I was brilliant. Best captain they ever had.
Oh, yeah. Very animated.
Most eccentric, certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. Primary school, Northlands.
They can still hear my appeals for LBW apparently echoing around the hills of the hills of Valley. What's it called? Valley of 1,000 Hills.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Yeah. So totally a Durban boy. Worked at the Mercury for many, many years. Studied journalism, obviously, down at Rhodes. That must have been an interesting time in your life, Gav.
It was. I got married.
I remember.
I got married very young. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, no, I thought you were going to elaborate.
Oh, well, my children very young as well. Anyway, carry on.
And what most people do know was Gavin was the South African Rugby Journalist of the Year in 2011.
And they've never had it since. I'm
Exactly.
the reigning.
So from 2011 to 2026.
15 years. It's been 15 years.
20, yeah.
Well,
15 years.
Without a challenger. That's
reigning
great,
champion. SA Rugby Journal of the Year.
That's bloody good.
Can you believe it, eh?
It's just because they haven't.
Mind you, the competition is crap. Yeah, that's
You can tell me, it's getting worse every year.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Gav, some journo memories. You must have a couple. You've been all around the world in this time that you've been being a
Speaking to
journo.
somebody who started it in 1991. Of course, I've got memories. It's been 35 years now. If I actually think about it.
2 favourites. Got one.
My 2 favourites. Well, I thought you were going to ask me about my rugby favourite memory, which actually was just before I became a journalist. Was actually in October, whatever the date was. It was the 5th of October, 1990. I remember watching.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, I remember taking a drive. I was doing my 1 year of military service. I was lucky because it got cut just before I was about to report for. I wouldn't call it duty because, of course, there's question marks over that. But before I was due to report, I was told that I was doing less than a year, and less than 2 years, like everybody else did. And I was based in Durban, and I used to have this running fight with people about the Natal team from that year, which Plum was a part of. You remember Tommy Lawton and Guy Kebbel and Lurt Muller and then Gerard Harding ended up playing in the final. That was one of my favourite memories. I remember driving because I lived on the Durban beachfront, and I remember driving past Kings Park because we were on our way to. In fact, I watched it with your brother. I watched the Currie Cup final at Keith Hoskins' place and got horribly drunk because it was such a nerve-wracking game for me. And I remember going past Kings Park and thinking to myself, the Currie Cup could have its home here later on this afternoon. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
Jeez, it's funny, that game is like, everyone knows where they were when that game was played. You know, so you were there.
I should have been there.
I was at Crusaders, and Plum, you were sitting... You were playing in the game, first. So we all knew where we were.
He was on the bench at first, then came on in the late.
So I was the first ever super sub.
You were?
Know that, yeah, because it was a planned thing to get Ethy off and me on in that 25th minute.
And there was like a strange selection. They let Steve Atherton play.
Yeah, so Andre Botha hadn't played the whole season.
Yes,
He'd been Andre Botha
right.
had played club rugby for Collegians, but he hadn't been available for Natal that whole year. And then suddenly he popped up like 2 weeks before the final. Mac decided to play him. And Steve Atherton had been playing lock the whole season, and they moved Steve to what I suppose it was blindside flank then as well. Into the number 7 jersey. So they ran onto the field not with Plum at number 7 like everybody expected, but with Steve Atherton there, and with Andre Botha at lock and not Steve Atherton. So yeah, there were lots of stories around that game, and I interviewed Nas years later. In fact, about 2 years during COVID, so it must have been about 5 years ago. We did a podcast with him, and. He's still bitter about that game.
Good, long memory. Good.
Yeah. Well, nobody who was part of it. I mean, I think the Loftus crowd actually accepted that result, but some of the Northern Transvaal players from that era still.
Remember, they had all the champagne with all of the logos, congratulations, 1990 winners, and blah blah blah. So we pinched that, took it down, changed it.
But it was that game was just amazing. I remember not being sure what was going to happen, but I'd said to my mates at Natal, because I was like one of those people that was at Natal Command. They used to call it Hotel Command, because it was across the road from Battery Beach, and I was living at home. And I was telling these guys from the Northern Transvaal and elsewhere, because nobody gave Natal a chance. And I said, with that scrum, they've always got a chance, because they did. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen as lethal. Well, with Springboks maybe have changed that, but that lethal scrum with Tom Lawton in particular, and Kebbel, and I think it was the late Lewis Muller and then Gerard in the final. That was and they did. It was, I don't know at what stage of the game the first scrum was, but I remember turning to Gary, to your brother, and saying Natal are going to win this game, because if you won the scrum battle against North, and they did. As we know, Tony Watson scored the winning try.
There was something. A guy fell down running onto the field, coming out the change room, or
one
of
those
guys.
One
of those guys got injured. No. Theo van Rensburg. Theo van Rensburg is the guy who missed Tony, who missed the tackle of Tony. Yeah, he missed the tackle.
Okay.
And then he missed a kick a couple of years later, playing for the Boks under Mac, and that would have won the game. And in fact, he missed the. You weren't here then. 1992, Natal won the Currie Cup final at Ellis Park by 1 point, I think it was, in the end, and he had a kick for posts about 4 minutes from the end, and he missed it. Ooh. So poor old Theo, because he's a nice guy, but poor old Theo, I don't think he ever lived those two things down.
Plum, just so you know, Gavin has a memory like an elephant. Well, he can relay the fifth ball of the seventh over in his schoolboy cricket games. You know what happened?
I think I got Robin Smith.
Well, I can't remember what happened after about 10 o'clock after we won the Currie Cup that night. That's for sure.
Late as that.
Actually, talking about the Currie Cup, I mean, one of my favourite memories as a journalist actually was writing a preview in the Cape newspapers, giving them a whole lot of reasons why Western Province could win that Currie Cup that year, but then ending it by saying, but unfortunately, Cape fans, the Currie Cup's going to spend the Christmas in Cape Town. And I was right. There was the Pat Lambie. That was the Pat Lambie game.
Durban.
2010, 2010. Yeah. The Pat Lambie game, and the province started off like a house initially, and then Patrick Lambie came, and you remember I think he skinned Sculpt, didn't it? Was Sculptburger.
We had him on last week.
Yeah, no, somebody told me. Yeah. Awesome. In fact, I saw a magazine article that was picked up. Yeah, so that was a big memory as well. And then obviously Japan World Cup in 2019. Just because what it meant for the country and all that, and that was and also I was on the British media podcast in the build up to that week, and none of them were giving the Boks a chance because they'd beaten the All Blacks, and Stephen Jones, all those those well known British writers were on the thing, and they were going, this was the best English performance ever, this is the best ever England team, and then I came on and they thought it was just because I said I think the Boks are going to win, and they said why, and I said because you haven't faced the Springbok physicality, and in a final that's what happened. Mitch, of course, was the assistant coach then, and I think he always relays the story that when he saw the Boks warming up, he knew that they were going to win because there was something about them that day, that confidence.
Yeah, well,
they had their final in the semi-final, didn't they, England?
They did, and the Boks were a bit lucky. Well, they weren't. I think they were the better team than Wales, but. When they edged through in that game, I think there were a lot of people, including my brother-in-law who's English, who sent me a message the night before the game saying, mate, good luck, but I don't think you've got any chance. And that was on the basis of New Zealand winning the third place. I mean, they'd have that meaningless third place game. And he sent me a message saying, "Look at that, you just scraped home against Wales. We just seen New Zealand thump them, and we beat New Zealand." And I said, "Mate, it doesn't work like that." And of course, it doesn't.
No, certainly didn't. Okay, Bashman, we need to move on to a little bit of current. Been living in the past.
All right.
And we don't like living in the past, do we?
No.
Hey?
No.
We like
The
being
past
in the
was
present.
good, though, but anyway,
the past
carry
was way more fun than the current because we've sort of experienced.
So
it.
what would you like to talk about?
I would like to talk about AB's Stormers,
Cool.
and I want to talk about Box Argentina,
Yeah.
and I want to talk about what Gavin thinks around where both these teams are at right now and a potential prediction.
Okay.
We know your prediction. You said 3-0, which didn't.
I said 3-1.
Did you say? No, we're only counting South Africa, remember? 3
But
tests.
no,
No, we're not worried about Baltimore, mate.
Yeah. No, I don't think I don't.
No, it's going to be a.
That's a
it'll
load
be
of nonsense.
no.
That, but anyway, carry on.
That's
Yeah,
money
right.
making. This is the tour here. So looking at the ABs, Gav, what Bash and I've been a little bit worried about with the ABs is just their ability to be able to take the high ball, stop them all, and the scrum. And certainly the Stormers sort of made them look pretty vulnerable in those spaces, didn't they?
You know, it's actually been quite weird for me, Plum, is I've been reading some of the New Zealand comment around it.
Yeah.
And there's been quite a few people who say, "Oh, the Stormers looked unfit," which they were because they were playing out of season.
That's
And I don't think these people realise that. And I don't think that people in New Zealand, and I'm talking about some of the podcasts I've looked at, including Breakdown, which of course is Jeff Wilson and Justin Marshall and all that. I don't think what they realise is what the Stormers team that they could have played against. If it was a full strength Stormers team and they had they'll still have Warwick Gallant, but they would have Ches and Colby now on one of the wings. They would have had Damien Willems at centre. They would have had Feinberg, Sasha, Corbus Reinach. They would have had Ben Jason Dixon, possibly Sia even, Paul de Villiers. There's several Springbok tight heads at the moment that the Stormers have got. I counted 9 or 10 guys were out, and JD Schickling was injured, and I think he's their best lock. So, I mean, they played against that team, and they struggled, and the Stormers were still in the game with 12 minutes to go. And I think that should be a concern for the All Blacks. Although I also think that's good that they got a workout. I'm not sure they're going to get a workout tonight, but anyway, I suppose we'll talk about tonight's game later on. But you're right, Plum. There were several questions that were asked about the All Blacks before that game, and I don't think they provided answers. Definitely not in the aerial game, not when it came to defending mauls, not in the scrums, and even in my view, I thought that they look a bit vulnerable against the sort of rush defence that they may be less used to over there.
Certainly, they started the game with Hassan Raw, receiving a kick-off, going wide, back to wide, got their game going. But yeah, when the Stormers got off the line, especially in the wider channels, and shut down that space, and the All Blacks didn't really have too much to answer for. But what I will say is that's what the All Blacks needed. They needed a welcome back to South Africa. We're here, and they got that, didn't they?
No, absolutely.
They got that. And I think still what I love about watching the All Blacks play is they've still got an ability to find a way to have a purple patch of 15, 20 minutes in a game where they can just score 2 or 3 quick tries and put the game away. And that's what they did. I think we've, in fairness, say that All Black side hadn't played together as many combinations. I think at the end of the day, that's our worst backline that we've got. That backline there will not come close to playing in the Test match this in 2 or 3 weeks' time.
100%.
Yeah, I also thought that at the end of the game they found their way to win as well. I mean, they started kicking more. I mean, they were, suddenly they saw that there were opportunities there. The Stormers had injury at scrum half, but that's also a credit to the Stormers but the Stormers were without both scrum halves in the last 12 minutes. So they had Diamani on the wing, and I know Diamani can play wing, but he was a bit exposed there in that game.
Charged down.
Yeah, charged down. I mean, I felt sorry for him. I get a bit irritated with some of the reaction. I mean, I had like people saying, "Well, what's wrong with this?" I mean, the Stormers had the opportunity, and I said, "Guys, this isn't a time to be over analytical. This is like, I mean, 2 months into." I mean, 2 months since they last played, they're 3 weeks into their pre-season. It's I mean, in your day, you guys used to play, and I'm talking about Natal now. In the old days, there'd be a game at Woodburn against Border or Northern Natal or something, and you wouldn't really worry about the performance as much as the fact that you're just having a hit out, that's really what it was for the Stormers.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at that, it was almost predictable, because like you say, they weren't match fit. The last 20 was always going to be tough, you know.
Yeah.
And they
didn't
run out
have the
of
depth.
pace.
They didn't have the depth on the bench that they normally have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 yellow cards.
Yeah.
You know, that would have been a concern for the All Blacks, you know. So a lot of scrum penalties against them. So there were red flags through, I would imagine, going through that New Zealand camp on the areas that we were...
Just talk about the referee. Okay, watching the two different referees, the referee for the All Black game and the referee for the Bok game. The Bok game, that referee allowed the game to flow. And sometimes it was just a shit fight in the rucks and mauls, but it was like play on. He wasn't pedantic, and he allowed a game to flow. All right, the guy down in Cape Town, man, I thought he was just blowing his whistle just way too much, man. He was looking like, 16 penalties that the All Blacks conceded. No problem with the yellow cards, but hey, man, like there was, too many.
It's quite
penalties.
interesting with the refs. I can see Stuart Barnes, the assistant coach for the mental games have already started. They're talking about like how long it takes to get a little line-out meetings. They're trying to get the tempo into the game, and the South African teams are taking too long to get set and going, and guys are lying on the floor for too long. So they want this tempo game, and we want the physical set-piece game. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it's handled going forward.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, some people are sort of saying, well, it's this, again, reading the New Zealand media, I think John Hart was saying that they just want to slow everything down. I'm not sure. I'm not sure Rusty's going to want to everything slow down. And the Boks have got quite a lot to their game. And Tony Brown was left behind, I think. He wasn't in Argentina. And there were 15 guys that are sitting in Johannesburg. I'd be very surprised if Rusty gives what people would predict. He's just not that kind of coach. I just think that there's going to be something to the Bok game in that, and maybe the All Blacks as well. But I think there's going to be something in that game that people aren't going to expect, and that specifically the All Blacks might not be.
Well, it would be un-Rusty-ish if it didn't happen.
Yeah, and our attacking game has improved. I mean, it definitely has improved. So it's not like everybody sort of almost like the way people are talking. It's almost as if it's the old school South Africa where we're just basically a set piece team. I don't think so. Damien Willemse isn't a player who's just part of a set piece team. He's a very good player.
Well, we can talk about like potentially who's going to make those two tests a little bit later, but I just want to give a shout out to Dion Fourie. Man, how good, eh? 38 years old, and he's been drafted
39 years.
39.
He's turning 40 next month.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, compared to Ma'anonu, he's still got a few years
No,
left.
he's a Lati.
But to be brought back into the Springboks, I thought that was an awesome effort. You know, he's been through so much frustration with injury, and his ability to be able to come back. It's not easy to come back from injury. You know that, Bash. You know when you slip at the bar and you pull a hamstring, and it's always
happens regularly.
Yeah, and it's
with
6 weeks.
Friends.
6 weeks of rehabilitation before you can get back behind that bar and do your job properly.
But it's just not this time. I mean, this poor guy, Fourie, he got his first chance late in life. I mean, the World Cup final, who can forget Bongi getting injured in the first minute and then playing the whole thing, and then he's had lots of injuries since then. So to get back into it this way, for Sia, I mean, what a story, eh?
Absolutely. And now, so he's now back in the Boks squad. I thought that was a bit of a tall order at first, but then obviously when Sia went off, it became inevitable. I mean, so there we have it. I mean, I'm talking about what the team that the All Blacks could have played against, the Stormers. They probably would have started with Paul de Villiers, and then had this guy coming on as a replacement later. And that's why I say they didn't have the depth on the bench that they could have had. In which case, I mean, you guys have seen the way South African rugby is these days, particularly. I mean, even the junior Boks are doing it. You watch the game and you think it's a close game. But if you're actually watching the game closely and you're seeing how the Boks systematically, junior Boks, all the Stormers, and every now and then the Stormers got it wrong, but when they got it right, they got it very right. Like when they played against Munster, I think it was, and they just dominated the last 20 minutes. You just take complete physical control, and the Boks do that now. Yeah. I mean, I even thought, we're going to get to the Argentina game just now. I was never concerned in the second half that the Boks would actually lose that game, because I just felt that their physical, the territory and physical dominance was. I thought maybe it would be a draw, which it nearly was. But I didn't actually see the Boks get beaten. But that is the South African way now. Often you hear people say, well, England were a little bit unlucky. They conceded tries right at the end. They were always going to do that because the Boks were taking that systematic.
Getting on top of them,
Yeah, exactly.
Gavi, our old boy, Vernon Umtonga, he seems to be making some waves down in Cape Town. What's the feedback on him?
I get trouble from even the guys in the Stormers now because they say that I can't write his name without saying Northwood Old Boy.
Oh, really? Eh?
No, Vernon, I think he did really well in that game too.
Yeah.
Okay, so the story with Vernon is he's still waiting for his South African citizenship. He's been here for a sort of a long time, as you know, because you coached him when he was at school.
And just on that, Bashy made his career.
But Pesci made what he is.
He did. Him and Pat Lambie.
Created
Put him and Pat Lambie. That's the mentor.
So we had them on last week, and Mark
Did you have Vernon on?
No,
Okay.
Pat.
Okay.
But when we mentioned Vernon, Plum was quick to tell me how much of an influence I'd had in my scrumming career, knowing as much as I know about the scrum. But I claimed it.
Well, you told me, and I told Vernon this when I interviewed him. And you told me that he was lazy as a player, and Vernon's the first to admit it now. But admittedly, I think that generally Sharks, Natal rugby players are lazy compared to the ones down
I
there.
think you want to tell another story about that.
It's just that because I've just been to a Sharks lunch now, and we were talking about like getting the Sharks right, and I said get them to play with an identity and play with some element of desperation. And I said if you want to look at a team that always looks like it's playing with desperation, it is actually the Stormers. They often punch. Well, they used to punch above their weight. Now lots of those guys have become box, but it is. And Vernon, look, Vernon went to Stellenbosch first, and I think there it started to come together for him.
Well, that's another subject for another day. I reckon that one. But Sia's injury, I was so unhappy when I saw Sia come off. I just wanted to give the guy a hug. I mean, I hope that's just a grade 1. So hopefully it's just a couple of weeks and he'll still be in contention for the first test. So yeah, sad, isn't it?
He's just come back from, apparently it's his other hamstring, so he's just come back from the one.
He's got two.
Yeah, he's got two, but it's the other one that he didn't re-injure one, it was the other one, which is a concern now. What have you heard from inside the camp there, Gab?
No, just what you guys have heard. There hasn't really been a report back yet. I mean, he carried the ball well in those first couple of minutes. I mean, he was promising, and just like he was in Port Elizabeth or Quebec in that game against the Barbarians. So it would be a pity if Sia doesn't play, but I think in Port de Villiers they've got an adequate replacement.
Good. And in fairness too, Marco van Straten's not that dusty either. So there's a lot of good players. So just when I watched that game, it just felt to me like Argentina got into the box physically. Okay, they were putting a lot of pressure on the breakdown. Their defence they were folding fast. They got set quickly. They were moving off the line together. They were really working well as a team, and it just looked like to me it frustrated the box attack. Okay, and then the box decided, okay, well, this has now become a shit fight. Let's rip into them physically. But the Argentinians stood up, and then actually the box attack just lost its structure, and the boys just look like, well, they've stopped us, so only we're going to get some momentum here, just bash these walls down. But they really didn't get anywhere. So I thought their attacking structure, and potentially it was without Brownie being around for a while, I think they lost their way and their shape, and it turned into just a carry clean battle, didn't it? I don't know if you felt that.
Yeah, look, I think I listened to Russell's post-match, and he said they played okay individually, but collectively the backs didn't function. But then he also went on to say that all of those guys coming back from injuries, they hadn't had a lot of game time,
But the thing is, Bashy, it's easy to say that, but at training, they train like they're at games. Yeah. It's not like the old days where you need game time. Training is actually like game time, especially the last one of the week, and they would have had a fortnight. It's just, maybe it is a combination more than...
So you've got Sasha's first game back, in a long time. Andre at 12.
And he tends to be a little bit too individualistic at first.
It looked like that.
Yeah. So my take of that game was that Russie is actually, he should go into betting, because when we were interviewing him before the game, he said it's going to be a grind. He said it's going to be close. It's going to be a grind. We're going to struggle to get coordinated. We're going to struggle to be connected, and that's really what happened. So when I watched the game, I never saw what I didn't expect. It was almost like that was the proper. I mean, I said just now the Stormers were having their first hit out of the season against the All Blacks. It was more the box, because they had so many guys coming in. I mean, Lurt and Eben and Sia, obviously, who didn't stay the whole way through. And I also just sort of think, well, you could tell me more, because you played the game at that level. Is if you've got like a big thing coming up, like a like a series against the All Blacks, there must be a sort of like part of you that sort of thinks, geez, I don't want to get injured today.
Nah, just want to get through this one.
Yeah,
just want to
get through. I don't care how I play, I just want to get through. Yeah.
And when it's that physical, if you do back off physical, that's when you do get hit.
Yeah.
So you actually do have to get your head in there and get stuck in. There's a couple of things that I think the All Blacks will look at that game and they'll go, okay, Argentina actually created some opportunity to get the ball to space, but they didn't get it there. And now the skill sets of for me, with Ruben Love and Geordie Barrett and Roygaard, I reckon can expose the Boks defence, because if you look at the wingers, they're defending inside the 15-metre line. There's 15 metres of space on the edges of those field to play with, and now Ruben's good at getting there with his little kicking game, or with his bridge passing over the top. And I know you won't get you'll get the Boks will scramble back. You'll see that, and we've got speed with Cheslin and Adriante and co. But for me, there is space there for the All Blacks to take on the edge. Of the Argentinians weren't good enough
to get it there. And even after that Stormers game, Renz in his post match was saying like the space was there, but for them to have done better, they would have had to build more pressure with ball in hand, but they made too many errors. So they identified that space, but they weren't good enough on Friday to do it. And it also went back to the set piece, because that space is a whole lot easier to get when you're on the front foot, but when you start getting dominated up front, not getting what you want.
But the Argentinian props, man, they stood up. Those are youngsters, man.
Wenger, Lewis and Moreno, they babies, and they that opportunity they relished, you know. And Russie said that. He said, like you've mentioned, it was going to be a shit fight, Gav, but he said like he was proud of the win, you know, because he said good Springbok teams have been to that place and struggled. You know, have you been there?
It was. I have been to Argentina, yes, and it is. It's one heck of a place to play. I mean, even to be a spectator or a journalist. No, they're a very hostile crowd, and if you it's that whole Latin temperament. What the Italians have, but most particularly the French, or they used to have it. If you sort of let them get into the game, and you let them get some momentum, then it's almost like, I remember Ian Mack coaching the Boks in 1993 in Argentina, and I remember Rona, his wife, giving me a call at home on one Sunday, and she wanted me to write a story saying that they'd put something in the water or something, because these guys can't possibly play like that, because in the first half the Boks were all over them, and then the second half they were, and Rona said, well, I've got experience, or I think she'd been psychic, because I don't know, but she told me the story she's psychic. So she told me that I'm remembering something that happened many years ago, and I remember saying to her, but Rona, that's also the Argentinian sort of like culture. It's this, if you give them a chance in front of. I was there in 2000 when Harry Viljoen coached the Boks for the first time. It was the first test they played at the River Plate Stadium, so not the stadium they played this week, but the River Plate Stadium, and I'll never forget that game. It was Harry Viljoen had told the Boks not to kick the ball.
I remember that.
They had to run everything, and they started off playing at 100 miles an hour. I mean, they looked like they were just playing 100 miles an hour, and then in the second half they were out on their feet, and Argentina hadn't beaten us at that point, and they just came us wave and wave after attack. I think eventually they lost by 1 point. The Boks just snuck home, but that was the sort of quintessential Argentinian experience. Was a first half that was flat and a second half that was just bloody noise, and then the opposition team just coming at you.
And that Argentinian, you mentioned it now, Plummer, they played, you know. And
they did.
If you think about even the Nations Cup, you know, that last game against England that they lost, they score that try, it's 3 points because it's less than 7, it's a bonus point, and now they're sitting right. But they're a tough team to play against.
Yeah, but you look at the game in the weekend, the Boks defence shut their attack down.
They
couldn't do anything, really.
And I think just like, as Dave Rennie said after the game in Cape Town, like it was good that the Stormers gave them the sort of wake up call or whatever, and tested certain areas, and I think Russie will be stronger and the Boks will be stronger for having to actually set their defence for that last attack that Argentina. I mean, everybody says, they lost the ball on the line and they were going to score. I think the South African cover defence
might have got there.
They might have got there, but I think it was touch and go. I mean, they defended for 16 phases. We may be in that situation against the All Blacks late in the game, and they've had a good dry run. I mean, I just thought I wasn't expecting too much from the Boks. And also the other thing, what I was trying to say earlier, which I maybe didn't put across properly, is I don't think that Rassie will be showing his cards now. That's really what I was trying to say just now. I said he's going to hit them with something that they're not going to expect. And that game that we saw in Buenos Aires is probably, I mean, we will have a lot of focus on aerial, on contestable kicks, obviously, but there'll be something different, and that was, I mean, because I was disappointed with the attack there against Argentina, but I just think that a couple of changes and that changes.
Well, look, when Pollard came on, it sort of settled down a bit, even in with the subs, you know. So look, the defence, you're right, Plummy, that was the difference in the game, and Rassie said afterwards how you're really proud of the character they showed to hang in there, you know. So a win away from home, tough game, 10 changes. Eben got 80 minutes. You know,
I think that's one of the massive pluses.
Lurt got time, which he hasn't had for a long time.
But do you not agree with me
about
when I say that I think that the Boks were also physically, they were physically more in the game in the second half. So I don't think that. I mean, obviously the defence is part of that. I mean, you've got that very physical defence as well. And Argentina supposed to be going forward with the ball, but they're not. They're actually sort of almost going backwards. I just thought that that the Boks in the second half, they were physically superior. I mean, we could have given away that last try, but really, I mean, if we really look at that game again, there were many opportunities for the Boks to actually win by more than a score.
I think you're right. I think in the halftime, Russia would have said to them, "Look, we need to drive more, tie them up a little bit more. We're playing because we're making a few too many mistakes. Then you're running your forward drill, and let's tie them up a little bit, get a little bit more direct." And they actually had plenty of opportunities inside the 22. They just didn't manage to get the try. I think they got held up a couple of times. So it never really looked like the Boks were going to lose that game, and ironically, they could have ended up drawing it. But yeah, I mean, again, I'll go back to what I said before. I think it's a perfect hit out for them right with it. But I really enjoyed Cameron Honeycomb's game.
Yeah.
I thought he was excellent. I thought he was into everything. His stats I saw, 80 odd carry meters. Don't think he missed a tackle. Real high work rate, and he showed that. I mean, he's going to have to do a great job to put Jasper Visa out, isn't he? But Cameron Honeycomb thought big shit up for him.
And the positives in that, I know we've spoken about the backs not showing so much, but I thought Ethan Hooker showed a lot again. He played really well. And Ed Wolfenamurva as well. I thought he's looking really dangerous, you know.
Yeah, but I don't think Ed will make Boks team.
Well, we know what the Boks are, but I mean, there's a guy that's putting his hand up.
No, it was a good game from him. But what I did love was the bench. Actually, I thought Visa carried well when he came onto the.
He's a machine. That guy played well in the Nations Cup as well.
Yeah, he's done very well.
Yeah, and I love that Portham.
Zachariah.
Wow.
Rassie's gift to Dobbo, because Dobbo never really sort of knew if he thought he was going to take a couple of years to come through, and then Rassie just chose him last year, and he's developed into a international player. I think if he hadn't been chosen by the Boks, he'd probably still be pushing for a place in the Storm team. So it's just one of those sort of like fortunate things, like Riley Norton. The same thing happened with Riley Norton, played against the Barbarians. I mean, we only saw him in one game, and I'm not completely convinced about that, but still, now Rassie suddenly got a Springbok lock that he never had before. And there's others, that Yakin Ahmed, that fly half,
nice little player.
He's a very good player as well. Suddenly he's now going to, because if he's good enough to play against the All Blacks for the Stormers, he's definitely good enough to play in the URC. That was his very first game for the Stormers the other night at the age of 19.
And he's currently their fourth fly half, because you've got Sasha,
you've got Yuri Mateo,
and the guy that played under Carl Smith.
I think he's higher ranked than Carl Smith. But the other Stormers fly half is actually Damien Villeneuve. People forget that he can.
But he's going to be in his 15, won't he? I think he'll be the starter.
Yeah, no, for the Boks. But I'm just saying, if the Stormers ever did have injuries and they went that deep, they would play him at 10.
Those games in Argentina as well, for me, sometimes I think when your discipline starts to show, that's where you get into trouble. I mean, we only had 8 penalties against us in that game, not offside.
Really
they
good.
worked hard on their defensive, not being in front of the last feet, so it took all that away, which is going to count a lot against the
there was some
Kiwis,
There was some. I think what put the Boks under the most pressure was the poor kicking. Like, I know it was a bit blustery in that, but both lines struggled, kicked quite poorly. I thought some of Sasha's kicking, Fussie's kicking, not that great, and that upset the flow of the Boks game a little bit as well. Some of those kicks not going there, and landing in the right spots. So all of a sudden Argentina pick up the scraps, you know, and
I thought there, Santi Carreras, their 10, you know, really coming in for Albanese. I thought he played really well and controlled the game beautifully.
I like
him.
Well, sometimes if you're not there, it is. I mean, I've always, as a guy who used to travel on every Springboks tour, I used to always get irritated with people back home who like sometimes had opinions, and you're not there, so you don't know what the conditions are like. But apparently that wind was, I mean, you could see it must have been horrendous.
Everyone mentioned the conditions.
I mean the wind. So you know there is that factor to factor in as well.
Yeah, well, we hope it's windy as a Kiwi supporter and Joburg.
And
Doesn't really get windy up there, though, does it?
No, I felt it'll be beautiful. Well, it could be cold. She said anything like today, but the Kiwis will love that.
I think it's their last. I think it's their last sort of feeling of winter up there. So we're going to go into the summer next week. I'm up there next week, so I'm positive.
I've just been up to see some of the boys in the hotel, and they're all walking around with bloody beanies, and man, doesn't look like it's. You know, I said, oh. I'm just in a t-shirt. What's going on with you guys? But they certainly brought the crappy New Zealand winter to Durban this week, didn't they? And we'll touch on tonight's game before we head. Oh, actually, no. You know what? We'll just stick with the Boks for a second. The All Blacks, because I don't know if I'm missing something, but when you think about that All Black performance last week, which wasn't at the level that they wanted to, but they've still got Roigard, Love, Geordie, Quintapai, Morby, Mackenzie, Jordan, Caleb Clark, and you know what? I think who is coming? I think Richie Mo'unga's on his way.
You think they're going to replace him?
I reckon Richie Mo'unga's on his way. I'm surprised actually, because I follow Artie obviously on Instagram, and I'm surprised Artie has sort of just left yesterday, so he'll be landing here tonight probably, but I'm a bit surprised that Mo'unga's not with him, because Billy Proctor's had to go back home because of his fractured scapula. And so Richie Mo'unga would be a massive boost to this All Black side, because they can actually play Ruben Love at fullback, and Ruben Love's a really good little fullback. Okay, he's even better with a bit more time on the ball, and that would allow them to put Jordan to wing. And Damien McKenzie can come on as that impact player, which he's so good at. So I think it'd be great if we get Mo'unga out here. He should be here. It's a joke that he's not here. He's already played an NPC game back home. That's their rules. But
so you just have to play one to be available.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. That's their rules that they've got. But and then if you look at the forwards, we've still got De Groot, Taylor, Lomax, Asafo Moore. I think will force his way into that second spot. I think he's a better player than Samasoni Takaleo. Tupavai, and then Ardi and Peter. I thought Peter Lakai was really good.
Good player. Handful to try and stop. He's got that X factor.
So the question is, do you think New Zealand have got the power? Well, named this group. Do you think they've got the power to stop the Springboks? And when I talk about power, I talk about momentum, because that's ultimately what it is. And you're stopping momentum, you're gaining momentum. You think this All Black team can do that?
Well, personally, I was disappointed them against the Stormers. So I thought this, although that's their sort of B-side that played, the areas that we thought they might be under pressure, or were under pressure. Tonight, I don't think they're going to get the pressure that they could have got maybe against the Stormers. I mean, there's
almost like they got the wrong team, eh? They needed a test team to play last week.
10 days out from a test match, they probably feel they need to get this team going. Gav, what's your thoughts on that? Do you think I don't think they've got the ability yet to stop us, but I'm hoping.
Well, it goes back to what I said earlier on about when I was in London before that. I'm sorry, in Japan before that final in 2019. I was speaking to the British journalists. Is that you don't actually know, because they were going on, oh, we've got this and we've got in the English side, and I said you don't actually know until you've played the Boks, because they are the most physical. So the one thing in New Zealand's favour, although they didn't have their test players playing against the Stormers, as you say, it was your welcome to South Africa. So normally in a rugby championship season, the Kiwis, now that they're not part of Super Rugby, haven't played against the South African physicality since the last time they played them 12 months earlier. Now they've got a couple of, some of them might play against the Bulls on Saturday. Whatever team the Bulls put into the field will be physical, because they just are. That's part of their DNA. So they will have had sort of more of a sort of a build-up than they normally would. So, but I don't know. I just can't forget. I've felt, and I've said this a few times, like in public forums, and then people have sort of taken me on and said, "How can you be so confident and so cocky?" And it's not cockiness. It's just that I've for a long time felt that the Boks do have the beating. Like they are a side that can physically demolish New Zealand, and they did it in that game before the World Cup in 2023 at Twickenham.
Yeah.
And I remember, and it's also in Nelspruit. Remember that game when when Fozzie was still the coach.
It was the first time they went on 6-2.
He was actually on his way out as coach after that game, and then they managed to win in
that was Ellis Park,
at Ellis Park. I do think that the Boks, if they get on and if they've got their there's certain players that didn't play in Argentina that I think everybody says, it doesn't matter who the Boks put on the field, but let me tell you, Peter Steph du Toit, Malcolm Marx, there was another forward that all those guys that weren't there, that are so Visa was the one I was
Jasper.
Jasper Visa. Those three make a big difference to the pair. I know Cameron Hanekom did really well, but he to me he's a different type of number 8. And in fact, Cameron Hanekom, if he played his way into anything, I think he almost might have played his way into possibly getting a role at some stage on the flank. I mean, he did play blindside flank against England in that first Nations Championships game. But to answer your question, I'm being a bit long-winded, but I do think that. I do think that the Boks will have that physicality and we haven't forgotten that 43-10, where the Boks were just completely dominant in the second half, and the thing with me is that I sort of felt that's been coming for a while, but admittedly that was under a different coach and a different time. So Dave Rennie might be bringing something new, but I mean that's not the forwards. I mean,
Barnes came out and said, "Look, it's different here, because." In New Zealand, they're using the scrum as a restart, but naive to expect to go to Cape Town and not the South Africans use it as an attacking weapon, and they were under pressure big time at the scrum. Those first 3 penalties, I think, all came at scrum time.
And Chooks come off the bench and probably got penalised a couple of times. It was probably a little bit unlucky.
They were very unlucky with that one on that far side. I think it changed the game.
Yeah.
So I think the writing's on the wall, but as Ren said after the game, they needed this, and they believe they can fix it.
There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on the All Black forward coaches, Jason Ryan, Neil Barnes, because they have to be able to shut down the South African maul, and so there's technical ways you can actually do that. Okay, but if you're going to allow the Springboks to get back ball or even middle to back ball, that means the All Blacks defence in that maul is going to be slightly vulnerable, and then and also opens up both sides to attack. So because the maul is in the middle, more in the middle of the park, get what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to shut that down. They have to shut that down. They give them box the front and then hammer them and keep them out from. And obviously that maul is closer to the sideline, which is easier to defend. So there's a little bit of that. The scrum, they have to be able to scrum. I mean, Jason Ryan just has to make sure that forward pack doesn't get dominated, because that's just an easy out for the Boks. They get if there's a scrum penalty back in there in 22, it's an easy out. If it's a scrum penalty inside the All Blacks, well, it's either 3 points or you go to the corner. Now you're defending them all.
That's right.
So there's a couple of massive parts of the game where the All Blacks forward pack have to nail. And if I was taking the All Blacks training, I would be spending a lot of time defending the mauls, scrummaging, and also being able to turn them around a little bit by putting them under a little bit of pressure defensively with an All Black driving maul as well. So for me, because if they can get parity, and even if they don't dominate, but they can get parity, now Ruben Love and all those boys, they can create magic. The Cam Roygaard, they can do their thing.
Yeah. I mean, that first try they scored in the 5th minute when it was a draft, Takiawa scored. And I thought, here we go, now we're going to answer a few questions. But it didn't last for long, and then the penalties started coming.
Just Gav, who would you have in your midfield for the Boks?
I would probably go with the established duo of Damien Delende, and also it looks like Andre Esthuizen's. Well, he was concussed again. I'm a bit concerned about that. because it was the second
After the Argie game?
Yeah, he was concussed,
no.
and that's why he came off. Yeah, so I would be a bit concerned about that. Look, I've always So here's an interesting thing. I'm saying that's our best midfield combination, but this is actually one of the strengths of the Boks. Is that in London in 2023, who was at centre? It was Andre Esterhuizen and Kane Moody. And when we beat them, when South Africa beat them in Wellington last year, it wasn't those two either. It was Damien Willemse, who started at 12, you'll remember, and Kane Moody. In fact, Kane Moody has played in the two biggest wins ever against the All Blacks. And then he moved. Then Willemse moved later in the game because Fussy got injured. So I can't remember who the midfield pairing were there. But I mean, Kane and Moody did play that whole game. So I'd say that I would start with those two guys. But at the same time, I'm almost saying it doesn't matter, because I think that the guys who will come in, they offer something as well. I like
provided Andre's okay, though. You mean provided Andre's okay?
Yeah. But I mean, or they could play. Well, look, they're not going to play Willemse now at centre, I don't think.
Yeah.
But he did play at centre in that game. In that game, so it's fascinating. I mean, look, I don't know if you're scheduling this to be a later conversation piece here, but I'm also sort of not entirely sure that I wouldn't start Mani. Mani's been consistent at the Boks when they've won big against teams, and those two games against the All Blacks. I know Sasha started against the All Blacks in Wellington last year when we won 43-10, but you remember he came off after 18 minutes, and then Mani came on and he ran the show. And the thing when Mani plays is the players around him all look good. When Sasha plays, unfortunately, like, he often looks good and like he's individualistic and he scored 3 tries. But if you actually want to play that type of game that beat the All Blacks in London in 2023 and last year in Wellington, Mani actually, because his distribution game is just out of this world, I think. And if you're looking for the players around you to shine, I've often thought that Mani is actually almost a better bet than Sasha.
You'd have to have another kicker on the field, though, wouldn't you?
His kicking's improved, though.
Oh, yeah.
His kicking has improved. Well, I think they're confident that he can kick now. So, but yes, that would be the thing. But Cheslin's now is now doing kicking as well. So I don't think Rassie would be the thing about Rassie. And I remember bumping into you, Plum. You did a speech at Pirates Rugby Club, and it was the day before they played the All Blacks in 2024 at Ellis Park. And I remember we had a chat. It was before everybody arrived, and you said you sort of thought Rassie is like, and I also agreed with you at the time. I mean, because Sasha had only played about 2 or 3 games for the Boks by then, and he chose him to start. And he chose Ben Jason Dixon on the flank, and he did a whole lot of weird things in his selection for that game. And the Boks, they had to dig deep, and they came back right at the end to win. But they did win, and that's the thing with Rassie. I wouldn't put it past him. I mean, it's a 4-test series. I wouldn't put it past him to be thinking, well, I'm going to choose this team for this test, and then I've got these guys training for the second test. That's Rassie, and that's the South African depth.
And with an eye only on the World Cup.
With an eye on the World Cup, and he'll probably think, well, even we might drop a test somewhere, but we've got 4 tests, we can come back. And I agree with you, though. I don't like to count that Baltimore test, but we've got 4 tests in the series, so we've got enough time to count. That is the thing about Rassie. I mean, you've got to credit him for his bravery.
Unbelievable.
He's been very brave in his selections.
Almost like he's sort of sadistic. He sort of wants to lose a game so that they feel what it feels like to lose.
A World Cup final, choosing a 7-1, and I know everybody says, I was having this breakfast this morning, everybody saying Rassie's a genius, and he had this 7-1 bench in the World Cup final, and I said Rassie was actually very lucky that we won that game, because if Geordie Barrett had nailed that kick and the All Blacks had won the World Cup, maybe we would have looked back and said Deon Fourie shouldn't have been playing 78 minutes as a hooker. Remember, he had to play 78 minutes, and what if Seth Cheslin had to play scrum half in that game?
Aaron Smith's try got disallowed. Remember?
Yeah. There was a thing. Yeah. There's always a little. The narrative is completely like. When you win the World Cup, it doesn't matter how you did it. It's just, but it could have been a different narrative if the Boks hadn't won that World Cup, and then people wouldn't be looking and saying, well, that was really genius from Rassie. They'd think, no, actually, that wasn't really very clever.
A lot of 1-point games in that last
we
World Cup
lost that
well.
World Cup because Deon Fourie was a hooker for most of the game, and he hadn't. But that's another thing, though, is why I'm excited about the South African depth is that we won that World Cup with Malcolm Marx sitting back at home for most of that World Cup. Remember, he got injured quite early on. Malcolm Marx was at home. We started off without Andre Pollard. I mean, that's the thing, is that we've just got these guys coming through. Rassie gives them opportunities. He creates a chance to have opportunities because we played so many tests, because he organised these extra games again. Okay, it's not a test, but against the Barbarians, and last year he threw in a game against Japan. So it's building up the playing capacity, or the test match experience of these guys. Yeah. But it's just like we do have an incredible amount of depth.
I think when you talk about depth, though, you just got to remember the Springboks have got some outstanding test players, okay? And what Russie's done, he's put URC players in for opportunities to play test matches, okay? It doesn't mean that they reach the heights of what a test player really is. So you can have a squad of 46 guys and they're not all test players, but they could develop into test players. So there'll be no, you can play them against Wales and you can get on top, no problem. But this winning this series requires your best test players. And that's what intrigues me around selection. Now it's going to be interesting when you see what Ben Jason Dixon, or whatever his name is, where they rate him. Vincent Chituka now, where do they rate him? Because we've talked about our depth, but where are they ranked?
Are you going to play them against New Zealand?
That's right. Who's the backup for Pete Steff now? Is it Honeycomb? Is it?
It probably would be Ben Jason, actually.
Yeah.
Well, there's another one.
That's the like-for-like replacement.
Yeah. So that's what you have to think about as well. And actually, Brownie talked to me about this when we had a beer up at the village. That's the thing. Everyone raves about the Springbok depth, but what does that look like? What does that look like when you're naming a 25, 26, 27-man, 28-man test group to go forward to win 2 tests? Because they have to win 2 tests in South Africa, don't they?
Yeah.
You won't want to be going... Well, you won't want to be going to Baltimore with it all to play for. You can't, can you? Well, you can. It can be 2-1. It can end up 2-2. But it could be. They'll want to go away to Baltimore and it's done, won't they? Yeah. So, hey, but just that's awesome chat. Tonight's game. What are you thinking with the Sharks?
Well, if I look at this team, I think they've got a long afternoon ahead of them. I mean, it's a lot of youngsters, lots of injuries. I see Vincent Chichuka's just pulled out of the team as well, so
it's amazing to think the season hasn't started and we've got lots of injuries.
Yeah, so I wonder what's going on.
It reminds me of last year.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the All Black side, it's pretty close to. I saw 2 sides that they put out, one earlier in the week, and they didn't have Quintapaya in the starting lineup, but I see he's in the side now. Yeah. So I mean, this is a bar Cam Roygaard. He's on the bench. I would think this is pretty close to their test team. Plum.
Yeah, have a look out for this Cole Preston starting tonight at 9. Really, really tidy little player. Comes off the bench for the Crusaders. Actually a Wellington boy. He plays with my sons, same age, and a really good kid. Only playing club rugby about 3 years ago.
Unbelievable.
Real late professional rugby player. Asafo, he's playing tonight, isn't he?
And he's impressed me. He came off the bench against the Stormers and sort of stood up. You could see straight away the change.
This could be and the old story, the All Blacks ain't going to feel sorry for anyone.
No.
And not even Ma'a, and I chatted to Ma'a last night and we had a good chat, and Ma'a, in fairness to him, he didn't even really want to be in this game. He hadn't even been in the country a week, so he's just barely got over his jet lag. So, it wasn't the plan to be involved, but because of their injury situation that he has to be out there. But Ma'a said that he's got nothing to prove to anyone.
No.
He's 44 years old, he's an ultimate professional. The way that guy's looked after his body is phenomenal. You look at Dion Free. We talked about him being 39, and there's utmost respect for him. He's staying out of the media because he's not that guy. And I just I hope Ma gets his 15-20 minutes. He's 103 cap All Black, and he gets the opportunity to play against the All Blacks, which is quite unique, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Just on tonight's game, the one thing where I'd be concerned for the Sharks is that I was looking through that thing. Lorenzo Julius is 22. Is actually the most experienced player in that backline.
Bradley Davids, Vusi Moyo, Lily Bester, Murray Costa, Lorenzo Julius, Donovan Don, and CA. He was at Westville last year.
And then I looked at the forwards and I thought, well, Emil van Heerden's there, and I quite rate. I think he's an underrated lock. And there's Pepsi, and then I thought, well, and then there's Vincent on the bench. But those two guys aren't playing. No. So the two experienced guys. So that's the problem. I mean, the Stormers last week had a lot of inexperienced players there, but they had experienced guys still around them. They've got that kind of depth, whereas for some reason the Sharks struggle to. I mean, it's all very well. I mean, again, I'm talking about the breakfast I had this morning. It's all very well having all these youngsters, but you've got to bring them through like in an intelligent way, if you know what I mean. And I'm not entirely sure that. I know that JP probably thinks he's doing a Dickie Muir, and like I'm throwing all these youngsters in, but I'm not sure if throwing a whole lot of youngsters in at the same time it brings you the results, because you need experienced guys around them.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a lot of choice actually. I think they've
that is
a million. But that team there tonight, you probably wouldn't expect them to win against a quality URC team, would you?
No.
So this is close to being a first test All Blacks side, which is. And let's face it, the All Blacks are all gunning for spots. You know, as much as you might think you're in that first test team, might not be. There's always someone hunting your spot, and they know they have to play well tonight. And I just look out Kerry's window here, and it's looking a little bit average weather-wise, so that might also be a factor, Bashman.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Well, we know that they want to play tempo and move the ball around, but the weather will change that. But
except that it's I'm looking out the window as well, and I'm thinking this is an average day in Auckland.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah. Oh, South African team.
The weather will not worry about the All Blacks. No, so it'll still be a spectacle. So
it's actually probably better than a hot, humid day where you can't move the ball around.
They're not going to talk about the weather. They'll just go down and play their game. Certainly will be a real treat for the spectators that do get down there tonight. All good. So hey, listen, we've just coming close to the end. But Bashi, do you want to thank the sponsors for?
We don't have any sponsors.
No.
No.
I think that's good.
It is good.
Yeah, because we don't want the pressure of delivering a good show, do we?
There's no pressure on us to do anything.
And we don't have to do it. Something we don't actually have to come.
I mean, he's not wrong.
we don't actually have to even be here.
No.
If we're because it's taking up your afternoon nap as well.
Well, you know what it's like. You know what it's like to nap in the afternoons, John, don't you?
Yes, definitely.
Everyone needs
a little afternoon. So, but how did you think the show went? You guys?
Me or Gavin?
Yeah, you both years. Do you think the show went all right?
Yeah, I think the show went well. I mean, we contributed.
But you got
a little bit.
12,000 likes on TikTok.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it's a waste of time. It's not like we can change anything anyway. It's in the past, isn't it? We can't look back.
The number was 23.
23?
Yeah, the winner.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Would you like to announce our winner?
Did it say I Love Plum?
Yeah, there's so many I Love Plums here.
Really? Yeah. I've got so many people that love me.
Literally, it's just scrolling of I Love Plums.
I Love Plum. Oh, send me a photo of that.
Oh, I will. I'll do it. This was number 23. If you want to just read the name there into the mic, please.
I hope it's not Afrikaans.
Do you need my glasses?
Ooh. No, I don't need your glasses.
Yes.
It's hugging looks like a, what is that animal? Is that a dolphin? Anyway, something in the water. Kelly de Klerk.
Kelly de Klerk.
Yeah.
Kelly de Klerk.
Yeah, well done, Kelly de Klerk.
Well done, Kelly.
Put your raincoat on because you might need it for this evening.
Well, considering the picture, she looks fine in the water. Online, everyone's saying excellent show. It's so nice to have you. Gavin, you're welcome anytime.
A big shout out for Gav, eh?
Oh, thanks, Gavin.
Yeah, man. Actually having this chat here like this saves us getting together for a beer later because it's been exactly the same chat.
Well,
we'd have to worry about it.
We're going to end up probably having a beer afterwards anyway, so might as well.
Okay. Well, thanks very much for again your effort, Gav. Bashman, well
Thank
done.
you. Thanks, guys.
You're staying
Good
on
fun.
next week, Bash.
Am I? Survived another week.
Well done. Okay.
All right.
So you guys going to be off this Thursday?
Well, I'll just see you. I'll wake up tomorrow morning.
Okay, Javon. Laser in.